Are you truly living minimally, or are you simply decluttering? There is a line, thin yet profound, that most of us cross without noticing. Minimalism is not an empty room, not a fixed count of 100 items. Minimalism is a state of the heart. In Japan, they call it Kokoro wo karaku suru, to make the heart light. Light like the breath you exhale when you put the phone down. Light like the moment you realize you no longer need to prove anything. Light so you can live. How many times have you cleared your closet, yet your calendar stayed full? Switched to a stainless steel bottle, yet left promises to yourself hollow. The surface neat, but the inside tangled. We grow weary from chasing just a little more. One more organizing trick, one more storage bin, one more smart device. But the more we add, the further we drift from what we truly need. The clarity of a day that feels enough. Less but true. Less but deep. Less but alive. True minimalism does not banish, it chooses. It does not punish, it heals. It asks the questions no one else asks you. Does this make me larger or smaller? Is this noise worth the price of peace? Does this time nourish what I believe in? And when you answer honestly, you feel a quiet shift. Shoulders soften, the brow eases, the heartbeat steadies. Space appears like light through shoji paper. Not blinding, simply clear. If you have ever wondered whether your journey stops at the surface of tidying or reaches the deeper layer of living minimally, this is the moment to hold up a mirror with unmistakable signals. They do not come from shelves, but from your breath and your calendar. Not from the number of things, but from the quality of your presence. One inhale, one exhale, one right choice, one lighter step. Right now, set aside the thought of needing more and open a silence wide enough to hear yourself. For when the heart grows light, life rearranges itself, and you will know, without anyone's approval, that you have truly stepped into minimalism. 1. You prefer living in a compact, sufficient space. In the morning, inside a small room, I brew a pot of green tea and slide open the shoji door. The first light seeps through the paper screen, gentle as a breath, pouring a thin layer of calm across the wooden floor. I roll up the futon, place it carefully into the cabinet, and the bedroom transforms into a workspace with a folding wall-mounted desk. On that serene surface, I write down a few lines of plans for the day, listening to the kettle boil, then set my pen aside. In a world obsessed with square footage and more, I choose just enough. Enough is wealth, my teacher once told me, compact and as clear as a haiku. When you live in a small space, you learn to give every inch a reason to exist. The armchair becomes an extra bed for friends visiting on weekends. The dining table extends only when there are guests, folding away to leave the floor open for 10 minutes of yoga. The bookshelf transforms into a desk when you pull out the sliding panel, hiding away the cords in a discreet corner. Each item is a promise of multiple uses, a quiet way of saying, I am here to serve life, not to show off. And then you realize, the fewer things that compete for your eyes, the less noise in your mind. Many call it minimalism. For me, it is mental care through order. Tidiness is a form of gentleness, I remind myself, especially on long days. The Japanese call emptiness mei, the space between two objects, between two breaths, between two decisions. When the floor is clear, light finds a way to enter, wind finds a path to wander, and the mind finds a place to pause. A built-in drawer glides quietly out from under the bed. A row of hooks climbs upward instead of cluttering eye level. A Fusuma sliding wall divides one life scene into two, then closes within a second. It is not that we lack square meters, but that we once lacked intention. Less to see more. That saying always arrives at the right moment, like a temple bell struck on a Sunday morning. Living small is not about enduring. It is the foundation of freedom. Fewer possessions mean quicker cleaning, lighter departures, lighter returns. The time once lost searching for keys, wiping a vast table, or gathering items bought on sale is now given back. To reading, to calling a friend, or simply sitting still to watch the clouds. Money once poured into unnecessary square meters now flows into journeys, a course to learn, or an emergency fund that lets us breathe deeply through harder seasons. Saving is nurturing the future. The phrase may sound dry, but in a small home, it smells of hot tea and laughter. And then something curious happens. When we choose small, we begin to choose carefully. A good kitchen knife replaces 4 average ones. A sturdy pair of shoes outlasts 5 that merely catch the eye. A neutral coat carries us from season to season. The origin and ethics of each item suddenly matter, not to appear virtuous, but because every choice leaves its mark on the space we live in. Belongings become a circle of intimacy. Whoever is invited in holds meaning. Fewer things, deeper meaning, I set as my rule, and I feel my spirit expand, like a sliding door opening into the morning light. Of course, shrinking down has its hard days. There are boxes of memories hard to part with, items we regret buying, impulsive urges to fill empty corners with something cute. I began by touching each object and asking, does it serve my life today? If the answer was silence, I learned to say goodbye. The first time my hand trembled, the next, it eased, then it became light. Letting go is a form of gratitude, I wrote on a slip of paper taped inside the closet, to remind myself that parting is also a way of keeping clarity and peace. Smart design smooths that journey. A fold-away bed hidden in the wall, with a reading lamp and outlet waiting when pulled down. A compact kitchen with sliding shelves and a magnetic strip for knives, using every corner without weighing on the eyes. A tatami mat corner where I meditate each evening, feeling the cool grass beneath my hands, breathing in the earthy sweetness. On the wall, I set aside a small alcove for a tokonoma, sometimes a sprig of pine, sometimes an ink painting. What matters most is the empty space around it. Respect the emptiness and you will hear yourself. I realized that the definition of enough is as personal as a fingerprint. For a freelancer, perhaps 40 square meters with a folding desk and modular shelves are more than enough. For a young family, 90 square meters with a multi-purpose room may be the answer. But the measure does not lie in numbers. It lies in feeling. Do you breathe deeply when you step inside your home? Do you know where everything is and why it is there? Do you spend more time living than arranging your life? If so, you have touched the spirit of minimalism, not by cutting away, but by tuning the volume. Enough is a whisper, I smile, and my small home teaches me to listen. At the end of the day, I pull down the futon, switch off the desk lamp, and close the shoji doors. The room returns to its wholeness, like a teacup resting perfectly on its saucer. Nothing extra, nothing lacking, only what fits the life at hand. Outside, the city remains loud, but inside, wind passes freely. Light holds its place, and the heart has a roof. In an age of exaggeration, choosing small is a gentle declaration. And each morning, as the light pours again through the paper screen, I whisper the words that have become my compass. Small space, wide vision. 2. You only have a few key items in your wardrobe. I stand before a small closet with only a few hangers, not because I cannot buy more, but because I do not want to lose myself in an ocean of choices. A crisp white shirt, a navy blazer with clean lines, a pair of straight-cut trousers, an A-line skirt, loafers softened by the rhythm of my steps. I touch each piece as if greeting old friends, few but dear. What I put on is not just fabric, it is a decision to live. In Japan, people often say, clothes should remain silent so that the person may speak. I choose that graceful silence every morning so the clearest voice belongs to the work I do, the stories I tell, and the love I carry. A pared-down wardrobe is not deprivation. It is a release. When the palette is restrained, black, white, gray, beige, navy, earthy tones, each piece becomes a puzzle that fits the rest. One shirt can pair with 3 trousers. One dress can connect with 2 jackets. One thin scarf can open 3 shades of expression within a single outfit. I realize limits are frames, not fences. Set the right boundaries, and freedom blooms inside. Fewer choices, more possibilities. Each morning turns into a mindful ritual. Open the closet, take a breath, rest my hand on familiar fabric, and know how I will look, not changing except in the rhythm of breath and the spirit of the day. Japanese minimalism does not come from coldness, but from respect. Respect for space, a closet that fits just right. Respect for time, not wasting 15 minutes confused before a mirror. Respect for the body, choosing silhouettes that flatter gently instead of chasing trends. And respect for the earth, buying less, wearing longer, caring more deeply. I begin to notice the structure of what I wear, raw cotton softening over the years, linen breathing in summer, and fading into a gentle patina of sunlight, fine wool warming without weight, silk falling like a poem. I run my fingers along seams, a hem folded cleanly, buttons fastened with care. Quality is politeness toward oneself. When I wear something well-made, I feel kindness meeting me at the very first touch of cloth on skin. Minimalism is not rigid. It is as fluid as breath. An artist may swap chinos for wide work trousers in the studio. An office worker may choose a firm blazer with light lining for a day of travel. A freelancer may cradle a thin cardigan for hours in a cafe. Let the wardrobe become a toolkit for living, each piece with its role, its range, its strength. When you understand their purpose, you no longer buy just because, or just in case. You buy because you know when, where, and with whom it will walk beside you. And then, buy less to wear more. Each item is worn until its story is told. Only then do you think about replacing it. I remember the afternoon I decided to inventory my closet. I photographed each piece, counted the times I wore it that month, and asked, which garment makes me stand taller, breathe deeper, smile more naturally? Which is nothing more than a half-kept promise with a passing trend. Whatever I had not touched for a year, I thanked, then let go. I did not feel lacking, I felt lighter, and strangely, inspiration returned, because everything left gave me a reason to wear it today. Beauty is when you do not have to try. When the closet grew quiet, personal style found its voice. From the day my wardrobe grew smaller, my budget shifted quietly too. I stopped hunting sales on impulse and set small rituals. Waiting 30 days before buying, writing down 3 ways it could match what I already own, checking fabric and seams like a craftsman. One good pair of trousers costs more, but with every wear, its worth divides down until it feels affordable. I record the money I do not spend and turn it into experience, a short trip, a class, a beautifully printed book. The best money is money that buys time. By buying less, I gain more hours for family, for work, for slow breathing. Order is its own kind of peace. I learned to fold shirts upright, like books on a shelf, so that one glance reveals all, each standing like a story ready to be chosen. I group clothes by palette, so the eye rests easily on neutral shades. I set aside a small tray for belts, scarves, and watches, treating accessories like punctuation, light, but making the sentence shine. Fewer clothes turn care into joy, hand-washing a favorite shirt, drying it in the shade, mending a loose stitch. Repairing is love, not regret. Worn edges are like smile lines at the eyes, proof of a life well lived. You can begin this very afternoon. Lay all your clothes out on the bed and listen as your heart asks one simple question. Which of these helps me live my life, lightly and truly? Keep what answers yes with warmth at your touch. Give away the rest as if freeing the air in your room and the space within yourself. Then close the closet and promise another morning when you will open it and see something very Japanese, very calm, a few silent garments, and you standing out. Wear less, live more. And as you step outside, you do not carry a closet. You carry a vow to live with intention every single day. 3. You care about the ethics and origin of the products you use. When I choose a ceramic cup marked faintly with the fingerprint of its maker, I hold it in my palms as if cradling a warm story. On the bottom lies a tiny symbol, the name of the kiln, the place where the clay was taken, and a fine crack, repaired with a line of golden glaze like time itself mended. I take a sip of tea and wonder about the simple question every object whispers. Who made me? Where did I come from? What have I gone through to arrive in this kitchen? When we care about the origin and ethics of what we use, shopping turns into a ritual of gratitude, as slow and deliberate as bowing to the morning. In Japan, they call that feeling mottainai, a sorrow for waste, as if even the soul of things might be wounded. And then a phrase surfaces, bright and precise as a stroke of ink. Do not waste the life hidden inside objects. From that moment, I began to look at my kitchen, my wardrobe, my workspace with different eyes. A linen towel woven from northern fields where farmers use no pesticides. A kitchen knife forged in a family smithy, its handle carved from trees grown in a system of renewal, a candle poured from plant wax, the artisan's name printed on the label in letters small as a signature. I begin to see that every object has a path, and that path is either a chain of kindness or a broken line of cheapness and neglect. When I touch objects made under fair conditions, I feel my spine straighten, as though someone quietly aligned it. Every purchase is a vote for the world you want. A short maxim, but heavy enough to anchor every decision at the checkout counter. Caring about ethics does not make me austere, it makes me clear. I learned to read labels like love letters. What is the material? Is it toxic? Was the water treated clean? Were the workers paid a living wage? Was the factory safe? Was there a union? If I cannot trace the path of an item, I put it down, because ambiguity is rarely innocent. I also learned to ask myself, do I truly need this, or just the thrill of newness for 24 hours? Do I already have something I can repair, swap, borrow, or share? I realize when desire passes through the doorway of truth, impulse naturally falls silent. I pull a single thread from the tangle of my wants, and it runs straight toward peace. Clarity is the new luxury. On the way home, I pass a small shop with a sign, repair, share, extend the life of things. Inside, the young learn to mend trousers, replace shoe soles, reattach bag straps. The old sew by hand, telling stories of a time when scarcity carried warmth. When durability returns, beauty returns with it. A wool sweater worn at the elbow can carry us through 2 more winters if mended with patient stitches. A wooden chair can live another 10 years with a thin coat of oil. To repair is to give thanks. I let that phrase rest quietly in my pocket, so that when I meet a crack, I remember. The crack is an invitation for my hands to practice gentleness. And then, the most interesting shift happens not outside the closet, but inside the mind. When we choose objects with ethics and kind origins, the noise inside us quiets. We no longer chase weekend discounts, no longer battle the inner war between wanting and guilt. We move from owning to stewarding, from hunting to listening. A room with fewer things but richer stories makes us slow down, breathe deeper, and smile at what is simple. I feel the essence of way, harmony, objects in tune with space, people in tune with rhythm, consumption in tune with nature. Harmony is the measure of enough. Of course, there are moments when I stand before a beautiful, expensive object, my hand trembling. I calculate its worth by the number of times I will use it. Imagine at least 3 ways it could blend with what I already own, trace its journey from where it was born to where I live. If the answer remains clear, I buy it. No rush, no fear of missing out. I let time do the verifying. Whatever comes home has a reason, and each reason touches a value I believe in: fairness, sustainability, transparency. At that point, the price is no longer just a cost. It is a long-term promise between me and myself. Cheap or costly is temporary, durable kindness is forever. By the end of the day, when I wash the same ceramic cup from the morning, I turn it over once more. The maker's fingerprint is still there, like the fingerprint of time itself. I think of the objects that will pass through my life. Some will only visit, some will stay. But whether they visit or remain, I hope they carry with them a clean story, a path treated with respect. Minimalism opens the door to that hope. Fewer things to see more clearly, fewer purchases to love more deeply, less waste to live more fully. 4. If possible, you avoid depending on many material possessions. In the afternoon at the train station, I tap my card on the scanner, the soft beep like a quiet nod. The glass doors slide open, the train glides into the tunnel, and I realize I am moving without carrying anything heavy, just a light backpack. No car keys, no worry about finding a parking space, no repair bills waiting in the mailbox. Across from me, a man folds an umbrella, borrowed from the neighborhood's sharing rack, wipes it dry, and returns it. That small gesture makes me think, some things become more beautiful when they are shared. In a crowded city where an apartment is just enough for a single breath, we learn to let objects pass through our lives like guests, arriving, leaving, offering convenience without demanding permanence. And right at the moment the train slips past concrete walls, I hear a whisper in my mind. Freedom begins with needing less. Strangely, society often teaches us that accumulation is the measure of success. Yet, the more we pile on, the heavier our steps become. You can buy a sleek car in exchange for a sense of control, but then you pay with time spent at the repair shop, money for insurance, worry over a scratch in the paint or a strange sound in the engine. Meanwhile, a thin transit card opens up a schedule as light as clouds, coming and going, stopping at a bookstore, sitting in a cafe to watch sunlight change colors across a tabletop. To depend less on material possessions does not mean rejecting comfort. It means refusing to be held hostage by it. Less dependence, more freedom, words that sit steady like a stone placed in a river, letting the current flow gently around it. I often think about how the Japanese live in flexible spaces. A bright room that can be a dining area, then a bedroom with just a pull of a curtain, low shelves, sliding doors, open surfaces like pockets of breath. There, objects are not business cards, they are tools. The tradition of wabi-sabi reminds us that beauty lies in simplicity, in the marks of time, in a ceramic bowl cracked yet warm in the hand. The spirit of motenai quietly steadies our hands whenever we want to buy something, just in case. Do not waste, do not hoard. Methods like KonMari are not only about folding clothes into rectangles, they are about asking a question that is utterly honest. Does this make my heart light up? If not, let it go. Let the home become a space for breath. Enough nourishes beauty, a saying small as a tea bud, slowly blooming in a pot. Stepping outside, the public system becomes an extension of the body. Trains arrive on time like a heartbeat. Buses flow like veins carrying people to school, to markets, to parks. Time on a train is not swallowed by the steering wheel. It gives back a chapter of a book, an idea scribbled on a page, a long message to a friend unseen for years. Money once poured into fuel, parking, and depreciation transforms into an autumn trip, a pottery class, or simply a financial cushion that lets you breathe easier when life shifts. Stress falls away too. No traffic jams, no race against parking deadlines, no dread at every warning light on the dashboard. Within the rhythm of public life, you feel like a single thread in a larger fabric, connected but not bound. Travel together, arrive lighter. A short phrase, enough to change the course of a day. Back home, the idea of ownership keeps giving way to access. Today I borrow a drill from the neighborhood tool library. Next week, perhaps a tent for a weekend trip. At a co-working space 3 blocks away, the desk by the window waits for me each morning. I do not need to fit an entire office into my living room. On my phone, I cancel unused subscriptions, move papers to the cloud, leave only a few spine icons on the home screen. Each quarter, I conduct a silent audit. Does this object make me a little better or only a little busier? What remains always tells a story. The kitchen knife sharpened weekly for cooking, the coat that has carried me through 3 seasons yet still rests on my shoulders as if tailored, the shoes whose worn soles tell of the roads I have walked. Fewer things, more stories. It sounds like wordplay, but it is a serious choice, to value memory over inventory. Of course, there will be skeptical looks, no private car, no storage room, no shopping sprees at every holiday. I smile. There was a time when I equated fullness with a full house. But the more I learn, the more I see that true fullness does not come from keeping. It comes from letting go. Mono, no aware, the gentle sadness of impermanence, teaches me to cherish the moment because I know it will pass. One good cup of tea is enough for an afternoon. One deep conversation is enough for a day. I give myself small rituals, a quarter of no buying, a week of walking in trains, a day of clearing one drawer. Each time I complete one, life grows lighter by half a step. Life is light when we are light. The words ring like a wind chime at the porch, sounding whenever my heart leans toward buying something new. And then, within that pleasant emptiness, the lasting things appear. A relationship built on listening, a skill refined with patience, a joy that needs no container. When you are not dependent on possessions, you are not lacking. You are simply returned to your true size. Like a room with just enough light, not one object too many, not one warmth too few. You suddenly understand, happiness is not in having everything, but in no longer needing to. Own less, and you own yourself. 5. You minimize mental noise in your life. Before the alarm on my phone has a chance to ring, I wake to listen to the house breathe. An inhale in the wooden beams, an exhale in the curtains sway. I set the kettle on the stove, wait for the first murmur of water, then silence every notification. In that moment, I realize what minimalism always reminds us. Noise is not only sound, it is tangled thoughts like a spool of thread, fragments of news like grains of sand, worries about tomorrow pressed against regrets from yesterday. The noise in your head is an invisible excess, my teacher once said, and letting it go is also a form of cleaning. Mental minimalism is not about forcing the mind into silence. It is the art of composing it, trimming the excess notes so only melody remains. I begin to name the noise, the scattered pings that startle the heart, the chain of glittering messages pulling my eyes away, the unnecessary argument replaying like an old cassette. I open my notebook and, for 1 week, write down the moments I am pulled out of the present. Scrolling without thought, reading the news out of reflex, trying to accept an invitation when my heart has already said no. A few simple lines are enough to map the interference. What unsettles me, what overwhelms me, what disguises itself as busyness while avoiding stillness. From that map, cutting becomes as gentle as pruning a bonsai, removing dense branches so the form appears. I unfollow accounts that fuel comparison, mute group chats during deep work, excuse myself from gatherings where my heart is absent. One timely no is a yes to yourself, I remind myself, tying the phrase to my wrist like a talisman. I learn about Ma, the Japanese sense of space, not only in white walls or spare furniture, but in the rhythm of the mind. This emptiness is not a lack, it is fertile soil where peace takes root. So I give my days intentional pauses, 5 minutes looking out the window before opening the first email, 10 full breaths before a meeting, 1 cup of tea poured slowly in the afternoon. In those pauses, I practice observing without judgment. Thoughts arrive, I see them. Thoughts leave, I wave them on. Like stones in a dry garden raked into gentle rings, scattered thoughts begin to rest in quiet order. Calm is not the absence of sound. Calm is mastering the volume, I write in bold across my notebook, like a signpost in the roundabout of information. From this foundation, Japanese habits feel like light locks that steady the door. I greet myself with a forest bath in the city's smallest park, walking slowly, touching the green, breathing the scent of soil, following the veins of a leaf with my eyes. The morning mist seems to wash away the clutter in my mind. I sit in zazen for 10 minutes, spine straight as bamboo, eyes half open like a doorway for wind, simply letting the exhale out longer than the inhale. When thoughts intrude, I do not chase them away. I nod politely, then return to breath. By afternoon, I practice the tea ritual in its simplest form, warming the bowl, whisking the matcha, lifting it with both hands, and drinking as if it were the very first cup of my life. In those deliberate gestures, I train the most important quality of a mental minimalist. To be fully present in one small act is the miracle of clarity. I also confront the cord that ties social media to the fog in my head. Each time I close an app, I regain a stretch of steady focus. Each time I stop chasing someone else's life, I stop running away from my own. Comparison dissolves, fear of missing out fades, sleep grows deeper. I trade 30 minutes of scrolling for 30 minutes calling a friend, for a dog-eared page of a book, for writing a letter to my future self. Look outward less, to look inward more, I remind myself, as genuine conversations begin to stitch shut the small tears of loneliness. My living space joins in as a silent ally for healing. I lay down a thick rug to soften footsteps, seal the door with a strip to hush the traffic, gather loose wires into a hidden conduit so the eyes rest easy. I peel away labels, leaving surfaces flat as still water. I layer light, a warm lamp for resting, a focused one for work, never a harsh glare. I choose linen, raw wood, neutral tones so the mind has a place to anchor. Small scratches on a doorknob, frayed edges on a rug, all whisper the wabi-sabi lesson. Accepting imperfection is the shortest path to peace. As the visual debt is paid off, the mind suddenly finds new budget for fresh ideas. Then I try deliberate shutdowns, a day without internet, an evening without screens, as if returning my nervous system to room temperature. After the first restless attempts, I discover the reward, a slower heartbeat, sleep sealed like an envelope, energy no longer scattered but whole. Dependence steps down. Devices return to their place as tools, not masters. I rediscover the joy of empty space in its right measure. Where algorithms once crowded, my own voice now echoes. Fewer inputs, more insight, I conclude after a week, and understand why minimalists treat calm like a muscle. Trained steadily, it lifts the weight of an entire day. In the end, minimizing mental noise restores me to inner sovereignty. Decisions cleaner, thoughts fewer, creativity arriving on time like an old friend. I no longer struggle to silence my mind. I simply seat my thoughts where they belong. Amid the clamor of the world, I build a quiet inn within myself, brick by brick of habit, naming the noise, pruning with care, honoring space, tending my environment, loving my body with forest, tea, and breath. And whenever the winds rise again, I whisper softly, "Calm is a skill, not a miracle." Then I return to the warm kettle, the open notebook, the long breath, listening once more to the small symphony of my life, clear and enough. 6. You use items until they break before replacing them. I began with a porcelain cup, cracked with a line as fine as a strand of hair. My hand trembled once, the cup slipped, and its rim chipped. Instead of throwing it away, I learned to mix lacquer with gold powder, tracing delicate lines, kintsugi, to mend the fracture. The next morning, as I poured hot tea, I saw that golden seam running down the cup like a scar already healed. And I understood, what gives value is not newness, but being cared for. In a world of constant upgrades and shortened lifespans of products, the choice to use something until it truly breaks is not stinginess. It is a vow of respect for the life cycle of all things. A phrase rises in my mind, sharp as a hyphen, to remind me each time I stand at a checkout counter. Replace only when broken. If it still works, care for it. I think of motenai, that gentle but deep sigh of regret over waste. Behind it lies an entire world, the sweat of the worker, the minerals of the earth, the stream of energy passing through many hands to shape a cup, a shirt, a knife. To discard too soon is disrespect, not only to the object, but to the chain of life itself. Living in Japan, I noticed the small, enduring acts. A glass jar turned into a planter, a worn cloth transformed into a rag, a jacket with torn elbows stitched back with sashiko, white threads across indigo, patient and beautiful. Repairing is no longer a desperate patch. It becomes a ritual of gratitude. By mid-November, families bring their worn sewing needles to the temple for Harikuyo, placing them in a cushion of soft tofu and bowing in thanks for a year of stitches. I do not need to be in Japan to practice the same. Each time I replace a shoelace, glue a sole, or sew a button back on, I am whispering the same words. Thank you for your service. But how do you resist the tide of buy now or miss out? I began with small, concrete commitments, like cleaning a room from one corner of the desk. If something new wants to enter the home, something old must leave, one in, one out, to keep balance and sharpen intention. Before each click to buy, I give myself a pause. 24 hours for small things, 30 days for large. When time passes, excitement fades, and what remains is true need. I ask myself 5 whys. Why do I need this? Why now? Why this particular one? Why not borrow? Why is what I have not enough? Most of the boxes I nearly brought home were only short-lived rewards for long, weary days. And so I pinned a strict reminder to my wardrobe door. Do not buy emotions, repair your life. Choosing to use things until they break also meant learning how to keep them from breaking too soon. The knowledge is right at hand. Reading care labels as if they were breathing instructions. Wash in cold water, dry in the shade, iron on low heat. Let clothes rest between wears instead of washing by habit. A small sewing kit in the drawer, a tube of epoxy glue, leather patches, a soft brush for shoes, wood oil for a scratched table. I practice running stitches to secure a hem, buttonhole stitches to strengthen a clasp. 10 minutes can buy many more seasons. For cracked porcelain, I try 2-part epoxy. For cast iron pans, I learn to re-season until the surface gleams black again. Everything has its own language. When I understand, I can care for it. And in the rhythm of hand and eye, I discover calm. Repairing is meditation, maintenance is gratitude. I also began seeking objects already seasoned by time, secondhand, as if finding a book that has been read with care. Good things endure years with quiet grace. A thick wool coat, tightly stitched, shoulders falling just right. A wooden table marked with scratches that tell a story. Each time I buy used, I save money, but more than that, I keep another box from entering a world already overflowing with packaging. I choose quality over trend, history over flash. Here, green living is no longer a slogan. It is a decision repeated every day. Fewer miles of shipping, less waste, more stories. When I give away what I no longer use, I am not discarding. I am passing on the chance of use to someone who needs it more. And then there are days when an object truly reaches its end. A shirt too torn to save, I cut into cleaning cloths. An old toothbrush becomes a tool for scrubbing window frames. A tin can becomes a planter on the windowsill. The cycle closes not with the thud of a trash bin, but with the awe of a new idea. When something has no more use left, I say goodbye with honesty, as to a friend who has walked with me for a long stretch. No drama, no regret, only gratitude. At its height, this choice crystallizes in a short phrase I offer myself and my audience. Durability is courtesy to the earth. Living this way, using things until they break, then replacing, does not make my life lacking. It makes me feel enough. Enough not to chase every advertisement, enough to be grateful for what I already have, enough to pour energy into learning skills and building peace. On the kintsugi cup, the golden seam still shines each morning. It reminds me that all things will wear, but appreciation only deepens with use, and within that depth, we become lighter, stronger, freer. 7. If an item hasn't been used in 1 to 2 years, you give it away or let it go. One rare sunny morning, I opened the wooden wardrobe and ran my hand along a wool sweater that had slept through more than 2 winters. It still carried the scent of camphor and memory, yet for over a year and a half, I had not once worn it outside. I stood still for a beat, hearing the quiet sliding of a shoji door in my mind, and asked myself, what am I holding on to? A sweater or a version of myself that no longer fits the present? Minimalism teaches a gentle ritual. Place the item in your hands, whisper a thank you, and listen to the silence answer on behalf of your heart. If 2 seasons pass, if a year and then another half slips by, and my palms no longer tremble with need, then the answer is clear. If you do not use it, pass it on. The 1 to 2 year rule is not punishment, but a kind compass for souls who cling to just in case. In Japan, I learned the spirit of mono no aware, the tender melancholy before fading, when cherry blossoms fall, beautiful because they are brief. Objects, too, have their seasons. When a season ends, sometimes beauty lies in bowing goodbye rather than clinging. The KonMari method humanizes this moment. Instead of coldly counting, I ask, does this still spark joy? Then I let reason and time shake hands, using the 1 to 2 year mark as a fair boundary, so that emotion does not drown out truth. Joy no longer lives here. That too is an answer. I turn decluttering into a weekend ritual, spreading a white sheet, sorting into groups, clothes, books, papers, small objects, holding each one close and calling its memory by name. The last glance is often tender because motenai, the sorrow of waste, is healed by action. I place the unsure items into a box marked with a date, granting them a quarter of grace. After 3 months, if I have not touched them, the box goes straight to donation. In a small apartment, every centimeter is a life decision. Giving away an unused blender gives me back a corner of calm, space enough for a morning teapot. As the object leaves, the breath returns. Why 1 to 2 years? Because life's rhythm changes slowly but surely. An old habit quietly drifts away. A new job asks for different clothes. A warmer city turns a heavy coat into a blanket for someone waiting at the station. The span is long enough to cover a cycle of seasons, short enough not to bury you in the past. It breaks the trap of, I already paid for it, because money spent cannot redeem the clutter it causes now. When I ask the reverse question, what is the cost of keeping this? The answer is often cleaning time, wasted energy each morning, or a stolen pocket of breathing space. Do not keep old versions of yourself as hostage. The hardest part is always emotion. Gifts, keepsakes, faded movie tickets, they ache in a different way. Here, I practice transforming, not discarding. My grandmother's scarf becomes a pillow cover. A poster from my 20s is photographed and stored as a file. A notebook full of writing is distilled into a few cherished pages kept on the shelf. I write a short farewell letter before letting go. Thank you for walking with me. I will continue alone from here. When I place the donation bag by the door, I imagine the smile of its next owner. That picture makes my hand lighter. Memories belong in the heart, not the closet. I also learned to walk around the fear of, what if I need it? A small list, noting the last time I used each item, makes the truth clear. The guitar gathering dust for 2 years, the trekking poles from a mountain long past, the heavy camera weighing on my shoulder. When the record says 24 months, there is no more argument. The rule is not rigid. Winter gear in a cold climate, luggage for long trips, a few professional tools, these have their own grace period. But leniency is not meant for the habit of storing fear. For everything else, I choose to pass them on. Resold for another life, donated so a new story may grow. Flow creates vitality. From those first rounds of letting go, I shaped a small ritual to steady my heart. Before giving away, I clear the shelf, place a ceramic vase with water, and light a short stick of incense. In that moment, the room breathes deeply, and I see the path of sunlight across the floor. The practical benefits need no explanation. Mornings are quicker with fewer choices. Finances clearer without doubles. The mind lighter because everything has a reason to exist. I keep less, but what remains is higher in quality, fitting today's climate, work, and body. Less but right, more but lost. In the end, the 1 to 2 year rule is not a pair of scissors that severs, but a gentle comb that smooths the fabric of life. It rearranges the surface of the day, clears the path for new intentions, returns authority to me over every just in case. I step out of the room after a calm afternoon, carrying the donation bag into the street. The wind brushes my shoulder, strangely light. I smile at the emptiness I have just created, as one smiles at a garden freshly weeded. Beautiful even before anything is planted, and I remind myself, like a promise that needs no calendar, letting go at the right time is a way of keeping. 8. You don't get swept up in commercial holidays. On Black Friday morning, my inbox exploded like fireworks. Discount codes flashing, countdown clocks striking every second, the words "buy now" beating like war drums against my chest. I put my phone down, brewed a pot of lotus tea, opened the window to let in the cold wind, and thought of an old saying: ritual matters more than gift. Perhaps growing up is not about buying more expensive presents each season, but about stepping off the stage of advertising and walking into the backstage of meaning. When we stop chasing sales, the holiday suddenly shrinks to the size of a tea table where we sit with someone we love, with no wrapping paper, only presence. Presence is the gift. I once believed that holidays had to be big to be joyful, abundant to be warm, but Valentine's became the pressure of photographs, Christmas turned into credit card arithmetic, and after every party came a bin overflowing with wrapping paper, ribbons, and fatigue. Through Japanese traditions, I saw a different rhythm. Shogatsu, New Year's, is temple bells ringing 108 times. Osechi meals prepared in advance so the first day is free of cooking. Oban is lanterns and dances for the ancestors, the quiet of remembrance. Hanami is sitting beneath cherry blossoms, lifting a warm cup of tea, and knowing beauty too must fall. No one counts how much was bought. They count how long we sat together. Mono no aware, the gentle ache because everything passes, reminds me joy is precious because it is brief, not because it is costly. So, I began a new habit before the season, writing down the meaning I want to nurture instead of the list I need to buy. I ask myself, what am I celebrating this year? A relationship that is healed, a project completed, a pain that is softened. Then I design a small ritual for it, a home-cooked meal in the spirit of simple kaiseki, each dish telling a memory, an evening offline by candlelight, writing letters by hand, a walk for momijigari, gathering red leaves to press in a journal, a tsukimi moon viewing with soft mochi. Rituals require no receipts, only attention. Do not buy joy, cultivate joy. I also build fences around my heart before the storm of advertising, setting a firm budget and speaking it out loud, silencing shopping app notifications for the whole week, blocking the websites that itch my hands. With my family, I agree on a law of less but real. Exchange experiences instead of objects. A museum ticket, a hiking trip, a pottery workshop. When gifts need wrapping, I use furoshiki, a reusable silk cloth, both beautiful and waste-free. I give skills, fixing a loose chair with a touch of spiritual kintsugi, mending a worn bag with a few sashiko stitches. I give time, watching a friend's children so she has an afternoon free, cooking soup for an elderly neighbor. These gifts do not unbox, they open hearts. Some ask, if you do not buy anything, will the holiday feel bland? I smile. Bland because there is no sugar, or bland because the taste buds are numb. Industrial noise dulls the tongue. When it is cut away, the true flavor of holidays returns. I remember one Christmas evening, snow falling lightly on the eaves, my mother and I peeling mandarins, arranging the peels into the shape of a flower, sharing the things we were grateful for that year. No packages, no receipts, only citrus fragrance and laughter. Since then, I keep a gratitude jar. One small note each day, opened at the year's end. Holidays become heart days, a feast of spirit. I also learn how to say no warmly, declining obligatory parties to keep one clean evening for family, suggesting a shared charity fund instead of gifts, proposing a single secret exchange instead of endless buying. When explanation is needed, I tell the truth. I am choosing a season light in waste, light in debt, light in mind. Those who understand celebrate with me. Those who do not are simply still on their way. And in moments of hesitation, I whisper a short maxim. Fewer gifts, deeper rituals. The reward is not only money left in my wallet, it is peace returning each time the ads scream. On the morning after shopping festivals, my home carries no smell of plastic, only tea and an empty table waiting for company. My mind is not sorting returns, my hands are not shoving for more space. Instead, I have time to invite my father on a walk, to call an old friend I have not spoken to all year, to write a note on the cover of a half-read book. I realize, when we buy less, we buy back time. At the end of the season, when the lights fade, I fold the furoshiki, place the gratitude jar back on the shelf, and set a blank card on the table for next year. I do not reject holidays. I simply return them to their true size, the size of a breathing heart. If I love someone, I stay with them longer than any advertisement. If I love myself, I choose silence over noise. And each time the shopping wave rises, I stand on the shore, not to be proud, but to remind myself gently. Holidays are for remembering, not for owing. 9. You prioritize living in a place that supports a sustainable, green lifestyle. I moved at the end of a rainy season, when moss still dampened the steps, and the stone path to the park smelled of leaves. On that first afternoon, I walked 10 minutes to reach a small lake, where children floated paper boats and elders stretched slowly beneath the maples. The wind carried the ring of a bicycle bell from a separate lane, and I knew I had chosen well, a place where the body wanted to move gently, the lungs wanted to open, and the mind wanted to settle. A home is not only roof and walls, it is the rhythm that surrounds them. Here, the noise of the city fades behind a green curtain, and every morning I hear birdsong instead of sales bells. In that moment, a phrase rose clearly. Close to green, close to well-being. From that day, my habits changed through the smallest gestures. I biked a short slope to the farmer's market each weekend, carrying vegetables in cloth bags, listening to growers tell stories of their soil. I brought my own bottle to the nut milk stand, the waste-reduced stamp like a friendly nod. The building had a green roof, 1 degree cooler in summer. On the terrace, a shared garden where neighbors grew mint and scallions, each of us stopping in the evening to water a few ladles. On the ground floor, shelves of shared tools, drills, ladders, bike pumps, because not everyone needs to own everything. The trash area was already sorted, the compost bins smelled warmly of earth. A space designed for saving, electricity, water, fuel, quietly teaches restraint. The Japanese word motenai whispers here, do not waste what is precious. Restraint does not make us lack, it makes us enough. I realize the ideal home is not measured in square footage, but in its ecological compatibility with life. Here, the bus stop is 3 minutes away, the train station 10. A short walk beneath 3 rows of trees leads to a bookstore, passing a repair shop beside a tea house. I need the car less, the detours less, the glass-walled waits less. At noon, I walk 15 minutes around the lake, a kind of urban Shinrin-yoku, a forest bath. My pulse slows, the clutter in my head clears. In the evening, I open the window and the breeze enters. The room itself is designed with empty space, for light and air to do their work. Here, the roads of my day grow shorter, while the breath grows longer. A maxim I hold whenever I consider a home. Choose where roads shrink and breathing space expands. Living among those with the same rhythm is part of the choice. My neighbors share watering shifts for the garden, hang lanterns made of fabric scraps for mid-autumn, and cook modest New Year's rice cakes together in an electric pot, spending more time talking than eating. On Saturdays, we host a swap, a winter coat borrowed through a season, a chipped teapot given to someone who loves kintsugi. These gatherings are warm and frugal, but above all they nurture harmony. When the community opens its arms, good habits endure. When someone reminds me, sort the trash on Wednesday, it is not control, but an invitation into the circle of care. Alone, green is hard. Together, green is easy. I also learned to read green infrastructure, as if reading the heartbeat of a city. Are there safe bike lanes? Do trees connect into a shaded corridor from home to school to market? Does the building reuse rainwater for plants? Do windows welcome sunlight so the lights stay off longer? These details decide how much energy we consume without effort. I once lived where it took 30 minutes by car to reach a park. As a result, I walked much online, but stood still in my body. Since moving here, I walk an average of 8,000 steps daily without exercising. I simply live. The electricity bill has dropped, the wardrobe has simplified because the local climate is mild, the refrigerator stays light because the market is near. In the right place, saving becomes natural. Of course, moving to such a place has its costs, rent a little higher, the fatigue of house hunting, a few old habits left behind. I solved it with a long-term equation. Less driving saves fuel, parking, and maintenance. A smaller but better apartment keeps me from buying excess. Health improves, meaning fewer medical bills and fewer weary days. Emotionally, I performed an osuji, a farewell cleaning, before leaving the old home, clearing, giving away, bowing in thanks for a chapter. Then I stepped into the new house as one crosses a bridge without carrying noise. Each time I doubt, I remind myself, change address, change heartbeat. The greatest gift is a sense of dwelling. On a morning of steady rain, I brew tea, listen to water running down the green roof, watch trees outside the window quiver softly. Nothing is grand, but everything fits together like the joinery of wood crafted with care, monozukuri for daily life. I feel myself shrink just enough to belong inside a larger ecosystem, respecting seasons, resources, people. Minimalism here is not only fewer things, it is fewer impacts, fewer rushes, fewer illusions of being the center. The best home is the one that teaches us to be gentle. If you ask me the signs that you are truly living minimally, I will say, look at your daily map. Are your roots green? Is your corner bright? Do neighbors greet each other? Is the market near your hand? The park near your feet? How many days a week can the car rest? When a place lifts you up instead of pulling you along, when every step is a small act of saving and gratitude, when your apartment is small but your heart wide, then you are standing in the right place. And in the right place, you will hear a simple whisper each morning, without anyone reminding you, live in rhythm with nature, and peace will come on its own. 10. You've extended minimalism beyond material possessions. I began to realize I had gone further than the closets the morning I cleared not a shelf, but my calendar. Sitting before the screen, I looked at a week crammed with colored blocks, like a wardrobe stuffed with appointments. My finger glided gently, deleting each courtesy meeting, each polite coffee, each commitment made only to quiet guilt. With every deletion, a white space appeared, like sliding open a shoji door and letting wind rush in. In that instant, I understood. True minimalism begins when we stop collecting the invisible. Less makes room for depth. From then on, I practiced danshari, not only with objects, declining appointments that drained me, leaving group chats full of noise, stepping away from roles I no longer wanted to play. Strangely, by saying no, I could hear more clearly the yes. Yes to energy for what matters, yes to attention for those I love, yes to the breath that fuels creativity. I wrote one simple rule on the first page of my journal: keep only what nourishes the spirit. The furniture was already tidy, but the mind was the place most in need of clearing. In the white spaces I carved out, I sat for 5 minutes of meditation each morning, a ritual of greeting the day. In those 5 minutes, each breath was a quiet affirmation. This is enough. I brought the spirit of minimalism into my relationships, and this was far harder than cleaning a closet. I drew a map of closeness for myself, who warmed my heart after each meeting, who left behind fatigue, who made me smaller, who helped me grow. There were no villains or saints, only the question of present fit. I chose to tend a small circle, a few people I could call at midnight, a few who could sit beside me in silence. For connections that had drifted, I sent a thank you note and let them pass like falling cherry blossoms. Beautiful, because brief. Fewer friends is not loneliness, fewer, truer friends is warmth. Then came time, the hardest unit of all to simplify. I learned to arrange a schedule as the Japanese arrange ikebana, one main stem, one supporting branch, and generous space for light to flow in. Mornings for deep work, no notifications, no tabs jumping, like a silent garden. Afternoons for movement and learning. Evenings for loved ones and books. Small tasks gathered together in one bundle. Email opened only twice a day. I discovered I was no longer busy, I was doing. The difference is in weight. Busy is a whirlpool, doing is a river. And whenever an invitation pressed in, I smiled and used enryo, polite refusal, to protect the the empty spaces I had worked to create. To protect space is to protect the heart. I continued tidying within. Old scripts, be perfect, please everyone, run faster or be late, were laid down on the table like objects no longer in use. Each evening I wrote 3 Naikan questions. What did I receive today? What did I give? What trouble did I cause? Those lines revealed a quiet pattern. Gratitude lessens craving. Less craving lessens buying. Less buying lessens debt. Less debt lessens fear. I learned to forgive myself with a small Ho'oponopono ritual. I am sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. Invisible hooks loosened. In that silence, Wabi Sabi stepped forward, placed a hand on my shoulder, and whispered, "Imperfection is still beautiful." Minimalism flowed into the digital as well. My phone held only one page. Apps stood behind a filter of intention. Work, learning, health. True connection remained, the rest departed. Notifications fell silent. The pings disappeared, and the day grew longer. Instead of scrolling to fill emptiness, I chose to read a long essay, make a long call, or walk a long stretch. All of these longs created depth, like broth simmered slowly. Slow to absorb. One day I opened my journal and drew ikigai, 4 circles overlapping what I love, what I am skilled at, what the world needs, and what can sustain me. Not to find an eternal answer, but to measure whether my schedule was straying from that intersection. What I removed from life was not ambition, but the clutter that obscured the path. Fewer tasks, but truer ones. Fewer goals, but richer meaning. I reminded myself, do not do more, do what is right. Practicing this way, even money grew lighter. When I no longer bought time through services, or bought excess for fleeting emotion, I began to invest in the invisible. A short course to sharpen skill, a brief trip to rekindle wonder, an afternoon with no aim to let the mind breathe. I was not trying to build a simple life. I was dismantling the structures of complication. Simplicity arrived as a consequence, not as a goal. Seek less, see more. Of course, there were days I stumbled. The calendar full again, the mind noisy, the hands reaching for clutter. Then I returned to an osuji for the spirit, clear a corner of the desk, clear a thought, clear one worry. I brewed tea, watched the steam rise like a soft veil of mist, and wrote down a single intention for that day, sharp and dark as a brushstroke on washi paper. Today, do only one thing with wholeness. The miracle was that when one thing was done with wholeness, order followed in the rest. When people ask how I know minimalism has extended beyond objects, I answer, when the closet is neat, but so is the calendar. When the house is clean, but so is the mind. When the wallet spends less and the heart makes less noise. When relationships are fewer, but deeper. When each day holds a patch of untouched space in which you can hear yourself. Then minimalism is no longer a lifestyle, but a life essence, like the faint fragrance of tea in a darkened room, unseen yet present. And if I needed one line to tie it all together, I would place this above my bed. Less of what is excess, more of what is true. When the door of the day closes, what remains is not a checklist of tasks, but the clarity of a single breath. You have heard enough of the world's noise. Now it is time to listen to your own footsteps on the wooden floor, the kettle's soft whistle, the quiet voice inside that says, "Enough is warm." You do not need to rush to change your whole life. Just one small act tonight. Fold the shirt left forgotten on the chair, silence one more notification, set the phone down 5 minutes earlier. Small but gentle, small but true. Let your home return to being a shelter for peace, your desk a place where intentions are written clearly, your calendar a door open only to what nourishes you. Every step fewer on the street is a step deeper into yourself. Every item leaving a shelf is an inch of light finding its path. Minimalism does not ask you to become someone else. It simply invites you back to your own heartbeat, steady, deep, bright enough. If tomorrow you wake with confusion, remember, one inhale, one exhale. One task done with wholeness, one person loved with fullness. Let the rest be carried away by the wind. And when night falls, ask a very quiet question. What was enough today? Then smile at the answer, even if it is as small as a drop of dew on the rim of a cup. And if you wish to continue this journey with me, with gentle suggestions, small rituals, and the pauses we need, leave a peaceful mark. Press like, subscribe, so we can meet each week, and tell me in the comments what you will set down tonight. Together, we will move forward, just a little lighter and a little closer.